Live from the incredible Playroom Studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's the Doug Stewart Show. Yes. 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 It's the Doug Stewart Show. And I am Doug Stewart, man. Thanks for joining your boy. I really appreciate it. This is episode number 6. And I had to get this out, man. And I know I'm like a day or two late. Actually, like 3 days late, but it's been busy. Got a lot going on, man. But I had to give you my thoughts on what happened this past weekend. And one of the most incredible spectacles of an ending that I've ever seen in sports. And I've been watching sports for a long time. Just turned 44 years old. And what I saw this past weekend may rank up there with the most incredible, heartbreaking endings that I've ever seen in my life. And what I'm talking about is the Iron Bowl. Alabama versus Auburn this past weekend, Jordan-Hare Stadium. And wow, what can I say? I'm still in shock. Like, I'm literally still in shock about this thing. The fact that what we saw at the end of that game was so heartbreaking if you're an Alabama fan that it's really hard to put into words. I mean, really. Chris Davis, 109-yard, missed field goal, run back for a touchdown. One of the most incredible things that I've ever seen. And now listen, let's be honest about this. That play, I don't know where that play's come from because I've only seen it, I think, twice in my life. I saw it a couple of years ago with Antonio Cromartie. I believe he was still with the San Diego Chargers at the time. Do the same thing, and I think that's the first time that I ever saw it. So I was trying to explain to my daughter, my little 9-year-old, she just actually just turned 10, or she's going to turn 10 here soon. And she was sitting there watching. She's a big sports fan, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was trying to explain it to her. She doesn't know a lot about football. But I just tried to put into terms for her, and you are listening to the Doug Stewart Show, how rare that play is. I mean, it's so rare. Like I said, I've never seen it until a couple of years ago where Antonio Cromartie did it. Okay? And so to lose the Iron Bowl and everything that you have on the line, everything that game meant was just absolutely incredible. And hats off to Auburn. I mean, I didn't think they had a chance in hell. And they got it done. I mean, think about it, if you're Auburn now in the last couple of years. You've had Cam Newton with the incredible miracle come-from-behind win in the second half against Alabama to stop them from winning another national championship. And now you have this, okay? Now you have this. And I started thinking, man, about some of the great heartbreaking losses in sports history. And so a couple came to mind. Football first, the Vikings and the Falcons in '98, where the Vikings had one of the most prolific offenses in NFL history, and they basically wet the bed and let the Falcons get a victory and go to the Super Bowl. They ultimately lost to John Elway and the Denver Broncos, but everybody named Mama watched the Minnesota Vikings just wilt away at the end of that game. Obviously, you know about Chris Webber and the timeout that he didn't have in the national championship against North Carolina. You can even talk about baseball and Bill Buckner and the ball going through his legs in the World Series. So, how about this? Greg Norman, the Masters in 1995 or 96, I believe. Dude had shot a course record on the first day of the tournament, and then shot a 78 on the last day. So he wilted away. And the way that you lost, and you, I don't want to use the word choke, but in this particular situation, I think the best way to deem these type losses are heartbreaking losses. That may have been the most heartbreaking loss I've ever seen in sports. I mean, really, it might be. Knowing that you're going for 4 out of the last 5 years to win a national championship, Nick Saban and his legacy, he's already won 4, won one at LSU, and to lose in that manner, and then to have to hear your rivalry talk trash all year long, like those people in Alabama do. I mean, hell, they poison trees if they don't win the damn game. Okay? So I can only imagine what it's like to be an Alabama fan for the next 365 days. Because those Auburn people are going to be obnoxious. Not that the Alabama people probably haven't been obnoxious when they've been winning all these championships over the last couple of years. But that's bitter. I mean, that's a bitter way to lose a game. And Nick Saban, for the record, I have no problem with him sending the Griffith kid out there. He said that he'd been hitting 60-yarders in practice. I have no problem at all because you can't expect for a guy to catch a short, missed field goal and return it 109 yards. First of all, you might think he might catch the missed field goal, but to run it back, even though there's a bunch of offensive linemen on the kickoff team or the field goal team on the field, okay, I'm sure your chances of returning said kick are increased exponentially, but still, you don't think nobody's going to do it. So I'm not mad at Nick Saban. Nick Saban has proven to be one of the greatest coaches in college football history. So, hey, they got it wrong this time. And if the guy would have made the kick, nobody would have been saying anything. They would have been calling him a genius. They would have been praising him like they do or have been over the last couple of years of this Alabama dominance. Now, what this means is the new BCS comes out and Florida State is number one. That's clear. Florida State's probably going to play in the national championship unless the next unbelievable thing happens and Duke beats them in the ACC championship, which that ain't happening. You know what? Auburn and Alabama, that's a tough game. Those are rivalries. Those are two teams with great players, great programs. Florida State not losing to Duke. All right, so Florida State's in the national championship. Number 2 is Ohio State. A lot of people have a lot of questions about Ohio State. Their schedule, they struggled with Michigan this past weekend. Auburn, they move up to number 3 for them. So Auburn's at number 3. They play in the SEC championship against Missouri here in Atlanta. At number 4, you got Alabama. Alabama only drops 3 places. Now, the argument can be made for Alabama is the fact that, hey, we had one loss that occurred by a miracle against a great team, a top 5 team in the SEC. You know, we shouldn't drop that far. We should be in the thick of this thing. The problem with Alabama and their argument right now is they don't get a shot to play in the SEC championship. That's the only thing that you can cross them out of the equation for. I don't think that, and I have one way that it'll happen, and I'll talk about that in a second. So then you got Missouri at number 5. I think people don't give Missouri a lot of credit. As I mentioned, Missouri had the tough loss against South Carolina. They're actually at number 5 in the BCS poll. I think people look at Missouri as a newcomer. They don't look at them as a historic SEC team. They look at the loss against South Carolina, and James Franklin's just coming back from the injury. That's a good thing, but I think people still have some apprehension about Missouri. Here's what I would like to see happen, okay? I would like to see Ohio State lose because I don't think Ohio State could beat Florida State. I don't think Ohio State's one of the top 2 best teams in the country, bottom line. That's it. I also don't think Auburn's one of the top 2 best teams in the country, but Auburn may have a shot at this thing. I'd like to see Missouri and Auburn tie in the SEC championship game. You know why? I still believe Alabama is one of the top 2 teams in the country, and here's where this whole BCS thing kind of comes back to bite you, and it's changing next year into a playoff system, okay? And I'm all for the playoffs, but sometimes you got to be careful for what you ask for. You know what I'm saying? Because the BCS really is designed so that the best 2 teams in the country square off against each other in the national championship game. I think the 2 best teams in the country, even though Alabama lost this weekend, are Alabama and Florida State. I really do. And with this system we have right now, I don't think Alabama's going to get the opportunity because they're not playing the SEC championship game. And it's right there for the taking for Auburn and Ohio State. Ohio State's probably going to win, even though they play a good Michigan State team. I think the 2 best teams in college football are Alabama and Florida State. But because the system is set up the way it is, Alabama's probably not going to get the shot, man. I want to get your thoughts. What you got to say about this, man? The Iron Bowl, the most incredible ending I've ever seen in my life. I've been living and watching football for I saw was just magnificent, man. I'm still in shock. Hey, email your boy Doug at thedougstewartshow.com. Check the show out on thedougstewartshow.com. Tell your friends, pass the word, share this video, all right? Like this video, subscribe to this video right here. It's the funnest show on YouTube, all right? Sports talk with hot sauce, Texas Pete hot sauce. Yeah, it's the Doug Stewart Show.